Cool.
Hey everyone, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Lifestyle Lifter Show. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Meyler. Connor is an online transformation coach who helps break down all things related to health and fitness into simple and actionable steps. He specializes in helping men build muscle and lose stubborn belly fat. Meyler, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, my man.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
Awesome to have you on
Great
board.
opener there. Great to be here. You're popping my podcast cherry.
No worries, man. Let the first one be the best one. Connor, before I get you to share a bit about your backstory, what got you into fitness in the first place, share something about yourself that most people do not know.
Oh, jeez, I wasn't prepared for this one. I'm not sure how many people know this, but just while we're talking about health and fitness now, I've been through a transformation. I lost around 43 kilos over the space of about 3 or 4 years. So that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, that's to do with health and fitness. Off topic, I would say, used to be massive into horse riding. Nobody knows that. I actually
No way.
used to want to be a jockey as a very young fella before I hit puberty, and then I grew to 6'3", so that wasn't happening.
Deadly, man. Deadly. So tell us about, because you obviously brought it up there, tell us about your transformation journey, Connor, over that 4-year period.
Yeah, well, I actually started off quite skinny, very slender. And the start of that journey was actually going on the way up. I was trying to gain weight, and that was for rugby. I played quite a high level of rugby for a number of years in my youth. And it kind of all just spiraled out of control. I think I gained about 10, 15 kilos on purpose. And then the rest, don't ask me how that happened, because I blinked and I woke up and I was 132 kilos one day, thinking, what the hell happened here? And then it was even a longer journey coming back down. I had lost about 30 kilos one time, hyper restrictive dieting, keto, you name it, all the crap most people probably shouldn't be doing. Put it all back on again. And then I let it rip when I was about maybe 21, 22 and kept it off since.
Deadly, man. Deadly.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, 130 odd kilos. What was the moment that just made you flick a switch that, okay, enough's enough, I gotta change?
Oh, I probably can't pinpoint an exact moment. Bad breakup, that would do it.
Yeah.
Bad breakup, and I was just at that time I had started going to a personal trainer. I think we'll probably get into this actually shortly. So I'd actually started going to a personal trainer in and around that time, and working with him, I didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing, right? So when it came to exercise or nutrition, he was just like, do this, do that, whatever. And after a couple of sessions of playing 60 quid a pop, I was like, do you know what? This is something I want to go and dive in and start doing myself. So it was in and around the same time as being my heaviest weight that I decided, you know what, I actually want to become a PT. So it all kind of switched at the same time. So that's what kind of sparked that process.
Yeah, so you kind of had a vision, Connor, that, okay, I want to actually lose weight, but then once I do it, I want to help and teach others to do the same.
Yeah, simply. I think a lot of people, overcomplicate this and make it something that it doesn't have to be. For somebody that's just starting off in particular, you can get as complex as you like, but if you don't know the basics and the fundamentals, it's very hard to continue doing something if you don't know why you're doing it.
100%, bro. 100%. And that's why I think with coaching, it's a lot more than just meal plans and workouts. Once clients are actually bought into the process and understand the why, and as you said, the reason behind everything, it makes it much, much simpler and easier to follow.
Yeah, look, that's what I say to people who come on board and work with me, is that in the next 6 months, I can get you into your best physical and mental shape, at least as I can in my capacity. But if you want to sustain it long term, I need to get you to a point where you don't want to work with me in the future. Ideally, that's what I want to get you to. And that's only going to happen if I instill the habits, knowledge, and routine necessary for you to confidently go and do it yourself, and not be like what most people are. And that's like a magpie looking for the next shiny new thing,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. One of my ex-clients actually sent me a video today. It was like gyms in 1975, Connor. And it was like Arnold and the boys back in the day, lifting hard, lifting heavy, And then gyms in 2023, people like freaking on their phones, taking videos, resting in between sets, taking selfies, going to the gym. It's like, God, how times have changed.
It depends where you are. I know you're in Benoist. That's a different
Oh,
kettle. I've never seen somewhere like that place in my life. So yeah, it just definitely depends where you're training. Gotta go to the
it
right
does.
spot.
Yeah, man, I was doing deadlifts yesterday and there was a girl who just wanted to take a selfie in the mirror. And she was literally, if I lifted up the bar, it would have freaking dropped in her foot, but she didn't have the cop on to even slightly move while she was making her ass look good for Instagram. So absolutely, I'm all for, man, the old school gyms. I think there's a lot to be said for them. But Connor, seeing as you already mentioned the importance of understanding the why and breaking things down to simpler, actionable takeaways, what I really want to focus on today is building muscle. And
Right.
building muscle, it's by no means an easy feat. And there's a lot of mistakes that people make while doing it. What would you say, if we can just maybe break them down step by step, what would you say are some of the most common mistakes people make when focusing on packing on size?
Right. But I don't want to be just throwing out sound bites and cliches and stuff like that. I'll try and make it a little bit more practical, which is hard to do because everybody starts at a different place. But I think you can probably separate beginners from intermediates. And
Yeah,
to build muscle as a beginner, listen, you may have a goal to lose body fat and build muscle mass. And unless losing body fat is a massive priority for you right now, I think the most important thing you can do is get into a routine with your
yeah,
nutrition. You know, get your protein intake, start to improve your nutrition overall, get into a solid strength training program, and actually just don't fixate on the scales or losing body weight for a period of time, because that's just something that's, number one, it's not necessary, because you're going to get a massive recomposition effect. You're going to lose body
yeah,
fat, you're going to gain muscle mass. It adds another layer to this where it just makes things more complex, and you start to look at the scales, and that's your only metric to judge progression, which it shouldn't be. And I believe you should get into more kind of sports performance related goals rather than the number on the scales as well. So that's
deadly.
as a beginner, right? Now, obviously, if you have a specific fat loss goal, like you want to lose 10, 15, 20 kilos, do it, it's fine. But if it's just a small, you're feeling skinny fat, you just have maybe, bit of a stomach rift or whatever, I wouldn't prioritize it more often than not. Now, if you're an intermediate, I think the biggest issue I see is when people think they can do both at the same time, gain a whole ton of muscle mass and lose a whole lot of body fat. And that's just simply not the case. I don't know about you, but I've been lifting maybe 12 or 13 years now. And I probably spent 3 or 4 years of that not gaining anything, like zero,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I wanted to do both, and just didn't give myself the time that was necessary to pack on some muscle. And what I mean by that is you need to be fueling to build muscle mass. To build a
yeah,
substantial amount of lean tissue, you need to be in a caloric surplus. So as an intermediate, you really have to sit down and decide what the most important thing for you right now is. If you could do one or the other, just lose body fat and not gain any muscle mass, or just gain muscle mass and not lose any body fat, which would you choose? And then that's what you should pick for an extended period of time until,
deadly.
if it's gaining muscle mass, it should be 6 months minimum, really. If it's a goal where you're losing body fat, yeah, that could be an 8-12 week thing, but
Yeah,
you need to segment that out for sure.
for sure. Man, I absolutely love that point. And something you brought up there, because that was a mistake I made in the past, was trying to do both and not really doing any. You're just kind of maintaining where you're not really building, you're not really losing, you just are where you are. But Shane Story, who I know you know as well, he made a great point on when he was on the previous podcast. He said it's called bodybuilding. And it does require a phase of building, and building does require you to obviously be in a caloric surplus and to gain some size. However, I do think, Connor, that definitely you need to be in a calorie surplus, but some people then just use that as an excuse, as to like do like a dirty bulk. And the
Yeah.
research does indicate that like a 300 calorie surplus is generally all right. Like that's generally enough. And then obviously you make amendments as you go along. What would you say are some recommended guidelines for like protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and actually your macronutrient profile, Connor?
Yeah, so first and foremost, just going back to the rate of weight gain, something that I follow is for most people, we're looking to gain in a gaining phase where the goal is to prioritize building muscle mass. We're looking to gain about 1% of your total body weight per month.
Yeah.
Now, that's middle of the road. There are some people that are just not going to progress as fast, and we could gain as little as 0.5% of the total body weight every month. And there's some people that can gain muscle mass by looking at weights and not having to do a whole lot, and they can gain up to maybe 2% of their body weight per month. Also depends where you are in your lifting journey as well. So that's a good rule to go by. So if you're 100 kilos, you should be looking to gain about a kilo per month. And
Now,
obviously,
would you say that's a kilo of mass or a kilo of weight, Connor?
a key. So I can't tell you if it's going to be muscle. I can't tell you what muscle the fat's going to be. Everyone's going to be different again. You would want to hope under the right conditions that the large majority is going to be muscle mass, but you are going to gain a bit of body fat. That's just, it's part of building. Just comes with it, and that's why I said there that when you're in a building phase, you need to get away from kind of your physique in the mirror and really focus a lot more on performance in the gym, and get away from just looking at yourself in the mirror and trying to look to see if you're gaining or that, because ultimately you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it on a week to week or month to month. Building muscle mass just takes so fucking long, like years and years. Like, how long have you been lifting? You know what I mean? So you're much better off looking at the numbers on the bar and yes, progress over the course of a couple of months, but not on a week to week basis. But going back to what you're saying there around calories, it's going to depend. You should be probably in between a 200 and a 500 calorie surplus, depending. Some people respond a little bit differently. There's a great study done on I believe all twins, and they overfed them by between 200 and 500. And some people lost weight, even though they, added 200 calories. Some people lost weight even at 500 calorie surplus from where they started. And basically what that was, it was just an increase in NEAT, the non-exercise activity.
Yeah, that's a great point, man.
So the 200 to 300 is about right for most, but basically some people will respond differently, and just in the act of eating more food will just move more and will burn off that. So you might have to have a little bit more of a calorie surplus than that. So somewhere between 200 and 300 calories. Protein should be set somewhere between 1.6 grams per kilo of lean body weight up to 2 grams per kilo of lean body weight. If you really want to go ham at it, 2 grams per kilo, totally fine. 1.6 is also totally fine. You won't see any difference really over the course of months and years. It's down to preference. What I say to clients that come on board and work with me is that if you're somebody who has just quite a high hunger response, if you're someone who's more hungry, let's bump the protein intake up. Protein is going to be a lot more satiating than carbohydrates or fats. So beyond 1.6 or 1.8 grams, go any higher than that, it's down to personal preference. You're not going to get much more of a benefit from eating more and more protein. Unfortunately, people more. And then listen, like, carbs and fats are down to personal preference. I don't know very many people that are doing enough training to warrant a higher carbohydrate diet. If you were doing concurrent training where maybe you were playing sport in the morning and weightlifting in the evening, totally. You should probably be on more of a carbohydrate rich diet with lower fats. But for everybody else, it doesn't really matter. You're probably at somewhere between 30% protein, 40% carbohydrates, and 30% fats.
Sure.
But really and truly for most people, let's just say your calorie surplus, you're on 3,000 calories per day, you're hitting 150 grams of protein. The rest of your diet then from carbohydrates and fats is just down to your personal preference. It's
personal preference. Yeah, for sure. I agree with you there. For most of my clients who are on that, I always try to, and I'd be interested to hear your thought, I'd be more lenient towards a higher carb than a higher fat ratio, just simply because what I find anyways works well for me is when I do increase my carbohydrates in particular, I can just push myself that bit harder in the gym. It's like, the extra energy, the extra carbohydrates that you get, I just feel that I'm more energized and able to recover that bit better. But then there are other clients as well, Connor, I'm sure you're the same, who for some reason or another they respond well to a high fat diet and a lower carb diet. So as long as you're nailing the protein and the calories, the ratio of carbs to fats isn't as important.
Yeah, well, the way I look at that is like, if I was being told I have to have, a higher carbohydrate diet rather than fats, and my preference would have been fats, let's just say, the fact of the matter is, I'm going to have to do this for so long that the marginal increase in benefit I'll get from the carbohydrate, it's probably not worth the sacrifice I'd have to go through by changing my diet for that long to see a result, you know.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you. Like, I run off carbs. I'm good with very low amounts of fat. I'm a carb guy, but I also know, like Sally, my partner, she runs off fats and proteins,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, deadly. Yeah, man, everyone's different. Awesome, awesome. So the first mistake, well, the first and second mistake, make the goal the goal. Prioritize, particularly if you're in that intermediate phase, focus on building or cutting, but not doing both. And obviously, secondly, managing nutrition, managing recovery. I would say, Connor, just to jump off that, then another big mistake a lot of people make is just not following a freaking plan. Like you're looking at Conor Meyler's workouts on Instagram on Monday, then you see Adrian McDonald's on Tuesday, and you see somebody else on Wednesday, and you're doing a different thing every week. It's like learning a language. If you want to become fluent in Spanish, you have to practice Spanish more consistently. You don't get better at Spanish by doing Spanish on Monday, German Wednesday, French on Friday. Make the goal the goal, make the plan the plan. Have you seen similar I guess mistakes, but only the people that would have come to you prior to working with you, Connor?
Yeah, almost everyone. It's funny you say that. I was just off a call with somebody who said the exact same thing, and he actually said that he doesn't find strength training very enjoyable. Never really got into it, never liked it, never seen any progress, but never actually had a program. You know, it may be something written down in the back of a napkin, wasn't the program, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get caught into the trap of thinking, right, so I have to do something different in the gym all the time. But I'm not even talking about people who think they need to shock the muscle or anything, but they just want a bit of variety, chopping and changing. And that's all well and good that you want to, you know, spice your life up every time you go into the gym. But that's not going to be exciting in a couple of weeks' time, because you're just going to be the jack of all trades. You're going to be not getting very much better at any of the exercises. Now, if you're on a structured program, whether it's 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, whatever, you see the lifts that you're supposed to be doing, and you can see smack bang where you started and where you are now. And if you can see a 30%, 40% increase in strength and performance, you're going to want to continue. So then in the long term, it's actually a lot more fun and enjoyable to stick to a plan. Never mind, it's going to be special.
100%. Connor, is there any better feeling than walking out of the gym and just even increasing the deadlift by like 1.25 kilo plates each week? You did whatever, 150 for 5 last week, you bumped it up to 155 for 5, and no one will ever get it but you. And as you said, that's the real reward, seeing the strength increase.
100%. Not with the deadlift for me. Not a fan. I'm more of a squat man, but I get what
Yeah,
you're saying.
really. Yeah, well, we can. What about chin-ups? Are you a fan of those? Because I
Yeah,
freaking love,
I
if I
am
can get
now.
even one chin-up extra, I'm like, my God, I love this.
Yeah, I am now that I'm sitting around 90 kilos, not 132.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, actually, speaking of which, I'm a big fan of including some bodyweight exercises in any for clients program, even if they are doing a lean gaining phase. Just simply because everyone's on about max strength, what's your squat, what's your bench, what's your deadlift. But I do think, having good relative strength in relation to your body weight is important. And what I find works well for many, myself included, is I can kind of gauge the level of fat to muscle that I'm building depending on my chin up strength. And if it's somewhat in and around the same, even as I'm gaining, I know I'm going in the right direction. But if my chin ups are suddenly decreasing, for me, it's probably an indication that I'm gaining too much mass too quickly, or else I'm just decreasing in strength, which is not what you want in a building phase.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Actually, I've never heard of that one before. I may take note of that. But I do agree. Yeah, no, I do like putting body weight exercises in where possible.
For
Be a
sure.
little bit trickier in the lower body, just because the whole
Absolutely. Yeah.
whole chunk of muscle there. But I really love push-ups. I really love putting in pull-ups, chin-ups, even things like Bulgarian split squats,
Yeah.
step downs from a high platform suck, and you don't need to put any more weight on than your own body weight.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely love them.
Deadly, deadly. Connor, the next thing I wanted to bring up, so, and I'll be the first to admit this was a huge mistake I made in the past when it came to building muscle. Testing my strength versus building the strength. So we used to have this thing.
Talk to me about that. Don't talk to me about
Man,
that.
we used to have this thing in 24-hour fitness when we were in America, and every Friday was like a bench day. And that was a chance for me to just see, can I max out my PR? So what it might look like, Connor, because decline bench, we all know you can bench that bit more in the decline than you
Yeah,
can in the flat
100%.
or the incline with a reduced range of motion. So it'd be like you bang out a few reps in 60. 60 feels good, right? Let's go up to 80 kilos. That feels good. Then we go up to 100. We try max out at 105. And I might have done 100 for two or three, 105 for a single, and maybe 80 for three or four. Now, in that entire workout, how many actual working sets, hard sets did I do? Hard reps
Yeah,
did I do? Probably about three or four. And there was a
yeah,
reason why by the end of that summertime, my strength dramatically decreased. And I didn't realize it was a volume gain. And I'm sure you can freaking relate, man. Just for me, it was always the bench press. I know most guys are probably the same.
yeah. No, 100%. Mine's the squat. I've actually given myself a couple of nasty injuries from my powerlifting days. I used to be very big into powerlifting, and I didn't catch that memo that I should be building and just testing. Well, I did actually. I just ignored it, to be fair. But I've two still niggling discs in my lower back and my thoracic spine in the middle of my back. Yeah,
Yeah,
three bulges from about 9 years ago now. So yeah, no, I get you. I've definitely been there. And your answer to that question was absolutely no work was done in that session that you're talking about. And you probably didn't do a whole lot afterwards. And the next day when you went into the gym probably sucked as well. So for anyone listening to this, you should be building and you should not be testing your strength. I would say, honestly, maybe every like 16 weeks. If you want to, just to get it out of your system at the end of it, say a second program, let's say your program's 8 weeks, 8 weeks. Maybe at the end of that, if you want to do a bit of testing, fire ahead. But even still, the way my take on this is the risk to reward with doing a 1 rep max on any
for
lift,
sure, man. Yeah,
it's just not worth it.
yeah,
The only thing you're doing is stroking your ego. So if you do want to do that, yeah, test the 5 rep max. That's what I would say.
absolutely.
And if you
Amen.
really want to be, if you really want to estimate what your 1 rep max is, just throw it into a 5 rep max calculator. You can
Yeah.
Google it, 5 rep max calculator. Okay, what is my, perceived 1 rep max? You're better off. I wouldn't be bothering, because look, like powerlifting is a skill. Doing 1 rep at an extremely heavy weight is a skill in and of itself, and you have to periodize your program to get there. You
Yeah.
have to have a deload before you do it. It's a very specific protocol to actually test your max strength, and I highly doubt most people listening to this or in general won't do it anyway. So you're not actually going to get your true 1 rep max. There's no point. Does that make sense?
100%. And it's so like testing your 1 rep max. People might think you're only doing one rep, but my God, it's not just from it's not just the physical effect, but also on your central nervous
Sure.
system. You can be absolutely fried. Like I remember once, Connor, I did a 1 rep max in the deadlift in my home gym, and I freaking fainted afterwards. Fainted afterwards. Bang! I was lucky, like I didn't injure myself, but when I lifted up the bar, got the lift, thank God, dropped the bar, and then just like as I was getting up, it was like felt dizzy, and all of a sudden, before I realized, I'm lying flat on the floor, hands out against the rack. I'm like, shit.
Does anyone have this
Like,
on video?
yeah, oh, I wish. And you know what? Because I'm a freaking psychopath, you know what my instinct was? I better finish off my workout. I
Yeah.
didn't go inside.
Get
I
it
I
done. Yeah,
continued
yeah, of
on. I
course.
continued on lifting, but I just going back to your point, though. I'm sure you would have felt dizzy after some of your high lifts in your powerlifting days. It's as you said, build rather than test.
Yeah, listen, unless it's your sport and you have to showcase your 1 rep max, you're not getting anything out of it by stroking your ego. All you're doing is increasing the risk of injury. You're not building any tissue. You're absolutely frying your nervous system. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot afterwards. Stick in the for building muscle, stick in the hypertrophy rep range, for super stable exercises between 6 and 12, 6 and 15 for less stable. So let's say super stable is like barbell or some bodyweight exercises, middle of the road, say dumbbells and kettlebells. They're up between, say, 8 and 20. And then there's some other exercises you may do in the 20 to 30, but keep it in the hypertrophy rep range. There's no need for you to be going into the 1s, 3s, and 5s
Yeah.
when it comes to building muscle.
For sure, for sure. I'm with you on that, man. And speaking of which, obviously rep ranges are important, but another huge thing with building muscle is progressive overload. And while as a powerlifter, Connor, I know back in the day you would have been just judged by solely your total on the big three, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. But I think there is this misconception that if you're not adding weight to the bar every week, that you're not improving. Like progressive overload, it's just essentially it's a way of that you're improving over the block a period of time. It doesn't necessarily have to be week to week, but as long as you're going in the right direction, you are seeing changes over the course of a month or a few weeks of your training block. That is progression in itself. Can you talk about some ways, Connor? Because obviously adding weight to the bar is one way, but what are some of your other favorite ways that you can actually make progress in the gym?
Yeah, great question. So uh, I'll give you something that might be a little bit controversial. So I am not a fan of making people do a specific tempo on exercises once they have a good grasp of that exercise, a controlled eccentric, explosive concentric. Very rarely will I program something where there's an extended 5-second eccentric or something like that, because I think there's enough to be managing between the total volume and intensity that you're doing.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is most people think about getting stronger and better in the gym by just lifting more weights. But if you did, let's say, the dumbbell chest press, 10 reps, and you had 15 kilos in each arm, like that's great. Come back in next week to do your next session and you pick up the 17 and a half, and now you do like 6 reps, 5 reps, and 5 reps or something like that. Yes, you've lifted more weight, but if you total up your overall volume, you've actually lifted significantly less weight. So what I do like to see most people do, use a double progression method. Tempo is standard. Just keep your tempo as it should be. Shouldn't change really from your first rep. Your last rep, of course, will be a little bit slower, but otherwise you should look like a robot. Now, what I do is first and foremost, what I like clients to do is work their way up to the upper end of the rep range that's being prescribed. So basically, an exercise might be an incline chest press, 10 to 15 reps. You might start off on week 1 with 15 kilo dumbbells. You might get 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 11. The week after, you might work your way up 2 or 3 extra reps. You might get, say, same weight. You might get 14 reps, 13 reps, and 12 reps. The week after that, you still use the same weights, and you might hit 17 reps, 16 reps, and 15 reps. Now you've broken up out of the rep range I've given you, which is 10 to 15. Now it's time for you to pick the next set of dumbbells.
I love it.
And you naturally go down to the lower end of the rep range again. Because you're not, like, the best example is something like a lateral raise. Like, you're not going to be able to go from like a 7 to an 8 to a 9 to a 10 kilo dumbbell. It's not going to happen. I'm on the 10s or 12 kilos and I've been at this crack for 12 years now.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah.
So
I love
that's
that.
it. I think it's just important people to know that more often than not, the best answer is probably adding an extra rep or an extra rep or 2, as opposed to shoveling on a little bit more weight.
Yeah,
because
for
you
sure.
actually lift more weight overall.
Yeah, like if you just think about it like this, let's just say you're even, as you said, you're deadlifting 100 kilos and you did 5 reps. 5 times 100, that's 500 kilos of total load lifted in one set. You do 3 sets of that, that's what, 1,500 kilos, we'll say. But then the next week, let's just say if you did 110, but you only did it for 3, that's 330 per set. 330 times 3, that's less than 1,000 kilos of load over 3 sets. So as you said, if you go from 5 reps in 100 to 6 reps, that's all of a sudden 600 for 1 set, 1,800 for 3 sets. And you're getting much more volume, you're getting much more load, and you're getting much more intensity. I think that's such an actual underrated point though, Connor, because like there is a time and a place for increasing the load, but I do think you have to earn the right to add weight to the bar. And as you said, if the given rep range is, let's just say 8 to 10, and you're hitting that 10 rep range, then absolutely maybe increase the weight and go for 8 in the next set. But you have to just earn the right. And some people it's ego lifting and trying to just add more without necessarily making progression.
Well, just one thing to add to that is, I think probably the most underutilized modality to improve your performance and strength and muscle mass in the gym is learning how to train close to failure. So I don't mean training to the point where you cannot do another rep, but when it comes to building muscle, it's really all about how close to failure can you get, right?
For sure, man.
The sweet spot for most exercises throughout a training program is what we call 2 RIR. So leaving 2 reps in reserve, or that's basically 2 reps before the point where you could not do another rep. So imagine you're doing your chest press, you get to rep 15, I have a gun to your head and I say, do another one. You say, Connor, I can't. Look, your life's over. That's 0 RIR. You can't do another rep. For most programs, for most exercises, I would say that stopping about 2 reps shy of that is the perfect amount of stimulus from the exercise, but it's not creating so much fatigue like we just spoke about that the rest of your session sucks. And I think that probably the biggest problem I see when people trying to build muscle is that they often think they're training hard. And we have 2 camps here. One camp really pull up way too short, way too far away from that point of failure. And the other crowd go to the point where they cannot move another inch. And both are just as bad as each other, because group 1 that are stopping 7 or 8 or 9 reps short, they're missing out on the most beneficial reps by a country mile. Do you know? It's like, I done a video about this where you're basically like eating a cornetto and then firing away the chocolate bit at the end. You know, you've done the hard work. You spent 30 or 45 seconds getting there.
You've got the bliss moment.
You just need to push the extra 1 or 2 reps. And then the other group, as I said, group 2, they are pushing so hard on that set that the next subsequent set of any exercise is going to. So it's like you do bench press, right? You have 80 kilos on the bar and you do 10 reps, but your 10th rep, you're like convulsing. Your face is like
you look like you're having a seizure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, and you're doing the Michael Flatley with your feet, they're all over the place. You come back in, if you come back in for your second set, you probably are only going to hit like 5 or 6 reps, you know, whereas if at first set you didn't do 10, you did around 8, maybe 9, you come back in again 2 minutes later, you haven't fried your nervous system out, you're good to go, and you might get 8 again, you might get 7, but overall your total volume is going to be a hell of a lot more over the course of a session, and an awful lot more over the course of the week, and of course over the block of a training program as well. So that's the biggest issue, I would say.
Such a great point. That is such a great point. And I think a lot of people, wow, that's a huge takeaway there. And even for me, I know myself, Connor, I can feel it the mornings where I push myself too hard the day before. And it might be a case that even on those days where I would have been testing, we'll say the deadlift, as you said, the rest of the session, then if you like max out at the start, it's like you're undercooking your volume by so much because you're just fried. And now you're reducing the load by 10 or 20% than what you were doing last week because you're not able to keep up. So it is that balance. I would say for the most part, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts, but I think a lot of people would probably be better off erring on the side of caution of, you know, maybe pushing yourself to that or closer to that point of failure outside of the big 3, like the squat, the bench, the deadlift, because they are just super taxing. Whereas I feel a lot of people, they leave too many reps in reserve. And again, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this. I'm not the biggest fan anymore. And I do think there is a variety of rep ranges that, you know, you can build muscle as little as probably 3 to 5, as many as 30. But I'm a big fan of like keeping things in general, maybe in that 12 range and not really exceeding that. Sometimes for 15. But I just find, Connor, as good and all as it is getting a lot of volume and 20 reps in a bicep curl, a tricep pushdown, because you have to do more reps to get to that point of failure. Sometimes people, and I've been there before, you might just give in and call the set a set, even though you probably have another 5 reps to give. It's just like it's been the longest set ever, and there's still more in you.
100%. No, I totally agree with that. I think for most people, most of your exercises are going to sit somewhere between probably 8 and 20 reps. Listen, you can build muscle mass roughly the same from rep 5 all the way up to rep 30 and beyond. But as you said there, like if you get to rep 25 on an exercise, like you're not there anymore. You're thinking about what's for dinner.
For sure. Yeah.
Are you really thinking how many more reps can I do here? Or, oh my God, this is really stinging my legs, I want to stop right now. So I do think that there's definitely a sweet spot. On the flip side, there's some exercises that just suit a higher rep range.
Exactly.
You know, like
Yeah,
Imagine doing a lateral raise with, like, for heavy sets of 6, your shoulders would be in ribbons, or like a leg
yeah.
extension for heavy sets of 10s, like,
Or a
so there are
calf raise for it, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. You know,
What's your
there's some
one RM in the calf raise?
yeah. So there's some specific exercises that they suit a higher
Well,
rep range, some suit a bit of a
exactly.
lower rep range. But
Yeah.
on the whole, I would agree. Yeah, making sure that you are sitting between 8 and 20 reps for most exercises, usually between 8 and 12, 8 and 15 for the vast majority of those.
Brilliant. Awesome. Awesome. Connor, this has been amazing, man. I think a lot of valuable takeaways here. Just to recap on some of the points that we made. So obviously the first one, make the goal the goal. Don't focus on testing strength and build, or don't focus on putting and bulking at the same time. Pick one, particularly if you're an intermediate. We spoke about the importance of nutrition, recovery, calorie surplus, protein intake, following a plan, the importance of that, having a clear step-by-step structure. And as Connor said, that's where the enjoyment, that's where the adherence will come in when you start seeing changes in yourself and your performance over the course of a few weeks or a few months. Not testing your or building your strength, not testing your strength all the time, and obviously prioritizing progressive overload. Connor, before you wrap it up, I want to do a final 5 rapid fire. So
Oh
let's
well.
make these as short and as efficient as possible. And feel
Right.
free to answer them
Yeah.
whatever way you want. The first one is, when you hear the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Oh, Elon Musk.
I knew when you'd say that, just in our chat
We
prior to
said
the
it
call.
earlier. That's why. Yeah, we were talking about it
Deadly,
earlier.
deadly. What's one new habit you've implemented the last year?
Say that again.
One new habit you've implemented in the last year.
Oh, one new habit I've implemented last year: early morning walks. Best thing I ever done.
Class. What's one thing you believe that most other people think is crazy?
That's a tough one. That's crazy. The Earth's flat. Joking. I have no answer for that, unfortunately.
No worries. um, Connor, what would you say is the most underrated gym exercise that most people don't do enough of?
Oh, pull-ups.
Deadly.
And if
Class.
you can't do pull-ups, I would say probably Bulgarian split squat.
Yeah, deadly. Last question. If you could go back to when you first started, Connor, what's one piece of advice you give to your younger self?
Ah, probably tell myself, you've got time. What
Yeah,
you're doing here needs to be broken down. You're not going to do it all in one go. Not to plug any coaching or anything like that, but you do need to find somebody that's going to give you the information that you need to get there,
yeah,
because you're not going to follow a plan blindly for any extended period of time. And get a support group, get somebody that can keep you accountable, whether that's you actually vocalize your goals and your plans to people around you, friends or family, or you actually do end up working with somebody in whatever capacity that is. I think that's the most powerful thing that'll keep you on course and get you to where you want to be as fast as possible. I mean, you're either going to pay for it in time or you're going to pay for it in
Oh, you took the words out of my mouth. You can pay in time or you can pay in money. My preference,
yeah,
absolutely, like you, it's always to pay in money rather than in time, because that's your most valuable asset. Connor Meyler,
absolutely.
this has been amazing. Where, if people want to learn more about you and what you offer, Connor, where's the best place you want to send them?
Oh, probably my Instagram, I would say. It's my fit coach IG at the moment. That's the best place to get me. If you
My
have any
Fit Coach
questions or
IG.
queries, anything like that, ping me across a message at any stage.
Deadly. Everyone, make sure to drop Connor a follow. I'll post a link to his IG in the show notes. And if you did get value from the show, please do share the show. Make sure you're following, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on Spotify, and drop me a follow too while you're at it. I'm at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, MC Lifestyle Fitness on Instagram. That is it for another week and another week's episode of the Lifestyle Lifter Show. Oh, Connor Meyler, sorry. Final question I ask all my guests. Because this is the Lifestyle Lifter Show, what is your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
Oh, I'm gonna go with the cliche, do what you want, when you want, with who you want, or definition of success. I suppose that's what it is. I suppose be able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want.
Exactly.
And yeah, I'm gonna stick with that one.
I
What
love
about
it.
you? What's your definition of success?
I think waking up every day with a sense of purpose and doing something that gives you fulfillment. And just, I think appreciation, like just gratitude, have appreciation for the small little things, whether it's, as you said, the morning walk, the cup of coffee, being able to go to a gym, because there will come a time. One of my favorite quotes is appreciate the small things, because when you look back, the small things might actually be the big things. And there will come a
Yeah.
time when, you're not able to do the things that you currently love doing. So I think for me, that's it. Gratitude, appreciation, having some purpose and something that gets you up out of bed in the morning. And if you can do that off your own schedule, when you want, where you want, with who you want, well, then all the better.
All the better, yeah. It's not about happiness, it's about fulfillment.
100%, 100%. Conor Meyler, looking forward to catching up for a gym session. You're going to put me through my pace in a few weeks, but thanks so much for
Max out
coming
on
on. It's been,
deadlifts.
yeah, we'll do everything we told the listeners not
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do because
And
we're
we were
freaking
back,
hypocrites. Yeah,
of course.
we'll be crawling out of the gym after. But Conor, thanks so much for coming on. Been absolutely amazing, and we'll catch up soon, bro.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Absolutely fantastic chatting. And